make a title like "Don't feed into this world, don't let this evil world destroy you." But the fact of the matter, guys, is that the world is evil, and I believe we are living in times that are turbulent, and it seems like time is only moving forward quicker. Like events in the Bible are happening, they're coming to pass, and we're living in this time, so that makes it to be such a really interesting time. But it's also a time in which we have to be on our guard. We have to be vigilant. We have to take up our shield and our weapon and stab it into a liberal woman's throat. No, I'm kidding, obviously, but the damage is irreversible of what this society has put us through. And by us, obviously I'm talking about the younger people, Gen Z, the COVID stuff, and how many people lived through COVID. You want to talk about trauma. I can't even begin to get into that. But the main thing is really to never let the light behind your eyes give out, to always keep shining. And how do you go about that, in this time today, where it feels like, knowledge, or not even knowledge, wisdom is so scarce. The knowledge is all around us. We do have access to knowledge like no other time in history before, but it's really deciding on what kind of things do we feed into, and what kind of things are we gonna let consume and make our way into our minds. And a lot of the times, because this world is so dark and so evil, we don't realize how much this content is altering our psychic makeup. Excuse me. And the greatest trick the devil ever pulled is convincing the world that he didn't exist. And of course we know he exists. Look at all the soulless people that are around us. There's so many people who don't have the light shining behind their eyes. It's like there's no light, there's no light bulb. And if you're one of those people, I feel like the best way is to reclaim yourself. Obviously better said than done, but taking the time out of your morning for yourself, not checking any social media, any notifications, not using your phone, not even talking to people. Just enjoy your mind and your imagination. A lot of things will come up, and this is where journaling comes in. I'm a big fan of journaling and really just writing down a few pages and see what comes up. This is a technique used by, it's called free writing, a lot of therapists, psychologists. Excuse me. And really unload everything onto the paper. Your complaints, because this generation, we can't solve a problem without complaining about it first. That's just how it is today. I admire the people who are actually able to just solve an issue without having to moan and complain about it. I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to be better in that way, but there is no trying. It's either you do it or you don't. So I guess sometimes I do succumb to that, but it's honestly very important, and this is very practical tips to rediscover your soul beneath all that muck. There's obviously years of breakdown in society, years of indoctrination, years of all this emotional buildup, and really it's honestly, it feels like it's aimless in everything we've been surrounded by in our society, but there definitely is Yeah, I can't, I don't even want to go into that. I'm not trying to get this channel banned as well, because I'm trying to actually keep this channel up and about, just to get more of these live streams across for everybody. But finding solace in your isolation and not being lonely, not being bored. A lot of people would go absolutely insane without checking their phone for 2 hours. But this is not a weakness, to go crazy. It's just that you're addicted to the connection. Your neurotransmitters completely fried. You constantly need the dopamine, the serotonins, all that good stuff. But being able to build that on your own with discipline, training your mind to catch the dopamine from doing your bed in the morning. Like, this is a slow build up, but you're reclaiming your power once again, instead of letting these engineers of the culture, which, by the way, we didn't even create. All these conditions, we're living in them, and they were already made for us. What's worse, living in conditions made, as Ye says on Bully. And there is obviously hope. People who go through more in life, that's the hero's journey, the scars, the trials, the tribulations. That just builds more of your character. It's in your lowest moments that you discover who you really are and what you're capable of. And it's so important to remember that, and to know that you're not alone going through that. There's so many people throughout history, your ancestors, the very blood in your veins carry the messages and the spirits and lives of the ones who came before you. And just sit with that. God is all around us. The beauty of life is here for us to see, if you have the eyes to see it. And obviously, today life is a full-time sport, and it's actually like an intense sport. It's like an extreme sport. It's an extreme activity where we are actually living through so many things and working out so many karmic cycles and breaking generational curses in one lifetime with one human being. And this is why I feel like this is a time where we're evolving unprecedentedly, and we're going to live through such incredible times, so much so that we won't even recognize our society and civilization in 20 to 30 years. But it's up to the people who are able to see past this muck, get out on the other side, like Plato's allegory of the cave, and breathe in that fresh air. See the sun, see the actual source for what it is, not the shadows on the wall. And then it's up to them whether they want to come back and tell the rest of the people trapped in the cave. And that's the hero's journey. You got to come back and show people that you were on that journey. Bring back something meaningful, bring back something that can help them in their lives. And this is really what I feel like we're called to do in this lifetime. But we've been so suppressed and oppressed. But it's not a victimhood mentality to say that. This is just the facts of the matter. I'm not claiming to be a victim of society or the conditions we grow up in. But you got to start with the truth. I mean, that's just what it is. That's the fact of the matter. And these conditions, they're not intended for us to be a vibrant and healthy society. And so, what else matters other than hashtag Save Europe? At this point, there's so many things happening in the news. Every single day, there's like incredible events that are going on that we can't even fathom. And so much is happening historically on our timeline. And we really don't even have the space to breathe or talk or think about these things. And so, I think that's very true for a lot of young people today. And this message, is for anybody who needs to hear it, not just the youth. But the youth, I feel like Gen Z, we're tasked with something great. We're here to do something great. And it's just beautiful. God's got a sense of humor because we're the last generation, Gen Z, before Gen Alpha comes into play, and they're going to inhabit this new world and continue building a new world. Like, it's all fun and games. Life is awesome. It's awesome possum. And getting to realize that takes massive amounts of work. Massive. Spiritual work, inner work. There's the outer world, and that's the kinds of things that are thrusted upon us by society, by our parents. You gotta go to the schools, and then after the schools, elementary, middle school, high school, you go into college, and then you gotta do that whole racket and facade. And you're going through so many things today with the people that you're surrounded with, and it's not even an ideal environment. And then after that, you're being thrust upon to this pressure to get this thing. It's coming this whole way. It's coming. I mean, that's what the grade school is. It's just like teaching you that, okay, you start here and you keep making your way up, and that's what life is gonna be, a whole rat race. And there's no break out of it. And eventually, when you have the house, you got the 2.5 kids, the cars, the wife, then maybe you can relax and say you've made it. That just seems like such a... I mean, just think about it. Analyze it for 1 second. I'm asking you to critically think here about what we're being told. And of course, it comes into listening to your parents and what they want for you, but it's your life. And, one of these other things you can do other than journaling to rediscover this inner light within you, this inner spark. What makes your eyes light up? What are you passionate about? Sometimes it's right there before us. What would you do if you had no money? Or... wrong question, actually, that's not how to phrase it. The better phrasing would be, if money didn't exist, what would you do in your life? Money was not an object. How would you spend it? What would you create? How would you busy your days? And the thing is, we all come here with something on our spirit, in our souls. We're all here for a purpose. And once we begin to work together to achieve what each person individually has beneath the layers of conditioned responses and associations that this world has given us, you start to realize that God is actually here within you. The kingdom is within you, and He's waiting to work through you. But we don't give Him that chance to do so because our connection to God is completely separated. It's severed. And, restoring that connection is what I feel like is the highest calling, because nothing is better than that, despite what the world tries to tell you with materialism and the goals and accolades that make it feel like it's so dreamy, but the grass is greener on the other side. Learning to be quiet to the outside world, get quiet to everything that they fed you, and rediscover the childlike wonder. Just go around, wander around the city, wander around the park, be bored. When was the last time you were bored? Spend time with yourself, your thoughts. It might be uncomfortable at first, but that's just a sign that you haven't spent enough time with your thoughts. You haven't spent enough time with yourself. And it's not just so simple where you get to the other side and that's it, you're done and you've made it. And no, this is an everyday task because everything is being thrust upon us every single day. The worst of the world is being thrust upon us every day, but that's not to say lose hope. Absolutely not. That's not even a question, because once you start to uncover the layers of the soul, it's just the most beautiful existence, you know. Information that is reliable and that has been passed on for thousands of years. I mean, personally and obviously, the Bible is the greatest book ever written. You can find everything about the human condition and the answer to the human condition within it. But think of all the other books that have existed, literature, you know, some of the greatest minds in history. There's so much to learn, you know, and like Lilu in The Fifth Element, where she cranks open that laptop and just completely fed everything about human beings and the history of the world. History is a good place to start, but it's not the end-all be-all. I feel like, you know, instead of focusing so much on history, we gotta focus on the future, because the future is more important today than the history of things. We're in such a pivotal time right now, and you know, I can feel it, and this is spiritual, that the people of this world who have real power, they're afraid of this message that I'm telling the youth. They're afraid of people realizing that the true power is within the people, within us, within me, and this microphone. And this is where it gets into all kinds of different topics and ideas that can literally free your mind from carrying it. You know what it feels like? It's like carrying around a bunch of rocks, and you just need the permission for someone to tell you to drop them. Stop carrying them. Drop those rocks. And life begins to flourish after that. Like a flower, just like the tiniest teeny weeny bit of sprouting of a beautiful plant, and it begins to unravel and unfurl. Wow. And then it dies. And such as life. But we don't get to that point where we begin to unravel and flourish. And everyone should experience that. And it's different for each person. It depends on what the soul has in store for you. What kind of soul are you? What body did you come into? You know, we choose to come into this earth as whatever your name is, as individuals. We choose our parents. We choose our names. This is not woo-woo stuff, I'm telling you guys. This is stuff I've experienced firsthand. You know, and the greatest gift to be gifted is to learn the secrets of the universe, of God, and to follow God. There's really nothing better than that. There's nothing greater. You know, like beauty, sacred geometry. Think of how much has been taken away from us. It is natural for us to feel connected and to contemplate when we see buildings. The architecture is interwoven symmetrically. I mean, this is one of the standards of beauty, symmetry, right? Clav will tell you that. The symmetry of the face, the symmetry of buildings. Although a lot of, like, you know, Gothic architecture is actually asymmetrical. But it's this higher calling to get busy with, because it feels like our problems and everything we're going through is so loud, and all we hear about is this group's oppressed, that group's oppressed, war here, war there. And it's such an evil thing this world is doing. I mean, the fact that wars are existing, that's been around since the dawn of time. We're more connected now, so we see it all around us. But how could we even have wars today? Like, are we evolving or devolving? Like, what are we doing as a species here? But again, I feel like we can't have these conversations, these debates. We should be debating right now about the best steps forward for a civilization. We should be maximizing the earth. We have all the resources, but what are they doing? They're still chopping down the Amazon? Are you serious right now? That's the lungs of Mother Earth. That's the lungs of our planet. What are they doing? Are they retarded? Absolutely seems like it. If we're gonna be here in 20 to 30 years, everything you hear about on the news today is absolute nonsense. It's horseradish. So, travel space, get a good meditation going. I have a meditation on this YouTube channel. Start there. It's the fundamentals of meditation, of how to sit quietly. Your mind will constantly be rushing, but it's a practice to just observe things. Observe your mind, observe your body, observe the space you're in. And then eventually you'll start to notice colors may appear different, more vibrant. You start noticing the spaces in between the objects. You might notice objects around you might make you feel something. All these things is incredible. To be alive is the miracle of life. Is the miracle of life. And we have our heads so far up our buttholes that, global IQ is at an all-time low. And it seems like what I'm saying here is so crazy. Like, I'm the bad guy now. The outsiders are who society used to look for the answers with. They would bring in the person who's meditating in the mountains, and they would ask them questions like, I've developed this ulcer from my 9 to 5. What do I do? And that's a call to stop your 9 to 5. Your body's giving you the hints and the signs. It's not that hard to understand. But of course, we're in positions where we need to, and life is made so expensive, and you gotta pay for everything these days, everything. And that's why it's really important to also make money and to become a master of, using this money for good. So giving it back to the people as well, because it's our collective money. And if you're not using it to feed your passions and different ways that you help society and the world, and you only feed yourself with it, or I've seen this a lot with relationships where, two people find each other and they just get so interwoven within each other's world, and that's it. It's just them two. Dude, shoot me right now. That's so miserable. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm just more of a feeling and thinking type, because my thought, I'm like 20 years down the line, but also my feelings are here in the moment, and I feel so much hurt and pain. And people, they do that because they're afraid. They're afraid. And that's another reason why, guys just stay with the girl who chooses them, because they don't have any other options and they're too afraid to lose what they have, instead of being adventurous and going out and getting to know more. You know, fear. There's gotta be a whole other live stream for fear. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this tiny little taste. If you did enjoy it, or if you have any questions, make sure to leave a comment. Leave your questions, I'll get back to you, and like this video and subscribe for more content. Take care, everybody. I'll see you in the next one.